Hello and welcome to OpenRelay Screenside Chats, episode 5.5. Today we're going to be talking about the OpenRelay widgets that we've been putting together. So we've had a problem that OpenRelay needs a portal. We've had an API for close to a year now, and we don't have very much traffic, at least in part because we don't have a website that anybody can interact with on a non-technical level. We have put up a few websites that we have built in-house previously. We had our affiliate sign-up dApp that we looked at in last week's Screenside chat. We also have the Embiggen claim site. If you go to get.embiggen.me to claim your Embiggen, you can see that website that we put together. And separately, we put together a little dApp called Fling that allows you to send a bunch of tokens to a bunch of different addresses all in a single Ethereum transaction. All of these dApps that we've put together were written with jQuery, and the code coexists with the HTML, and it's all just kind of messy. It's not very well organized. And we knew that moving forward to build our portal site, we needed something that was going to give us a bit more structure. The other problem that we've run into is that affiliates need help to build tools to integrate with OpenRelay. So we were looking for a solution that was not just build our own portal site, but that would actually give our affiliates tools that they could use to build services of their own. Cat decided to be noisy. So we looked at a few different options. We could continue using jQuery and continue having fairly disorganized code. We could try to use an application framework like Angular or React or Vue or Ember. And then we also looked at some widget frameworks that, like Polymer and LitElement, that are not as comprehensive as application frameworks, but give us the ability to build widgets that could be used on our site as well as some other sites. So our decision was to go with LitElement. LitElement is tiny. Our current toolkit, and this includes all the stuff I've written so far, not just the core LitElement library, is 15 kilobytes minified and gzipped. So, you know, 20 years ago, I had a modem that could download that file in about a second. In this day and age, it is completely insignificant, and yet it actually seemed to be a pretty nice way to build services. It's very fast. It leverages native browser features. Specifically, it uses the custom elements feature and the shadow DOM feature. It's also a very flexible framework. It is not coupled with any application framework, which means you could take the elements that we've put together and build them into a React application, or build them into an Angular application, or build them into a jQuery application. It does not restrict you in terms of what other tools you can use, and thus our affiliates who are building their own services and have all of their own preferences can use our elements to build their sites without having to use whatever application framework we had decided on. For basic usage, there is an OR Web3 tag, so it's OpenRelay Web3. You would need to have the script embedded in your HTML in order to access that. And here we say, you have Web3, so that's going to display if the user has Web3. And then we have a slot that says no Web3, and you need to have Web3 to use this site. So with the OR Web3 tag, it will display anything outside of this div, if you have Web3, and anything inside that tag if you don't have Web3. So, while we're displaying a couple of simple messages here, you could build your entire application within the OR Web3 tags and have that there to interact with. Our subsequent elements that we will take a look at later get their Web3 object from signals emitted by the OR Web3 tag. So it is necessary to be the top level tag for anything else that uses our LitElement widgets. You will see here that this says I have Web3. This presentation that I'm doing with reveal.js is actually essentially a dApp written with our LitElement tools. And if I were showing you this from a browser that did not have Web3, it would tell me that you need Web3 to use this site. So the next widget that we're going to take a look at is the OR Web3 account widget, and it's just going to display your Ethereum address. So here's the Ethereum address that I'm currently logged in with. And you can see, again, this is nested within the OR Web3 tag. The OR Web3 account tag is dependent on the Web3 object that it got from the OR Web3 tag. Next is the OR ERC20 balance tag. So here we've given it the contract address of an ERC20 token, in this case, Embiggen, of course. And we've told it to round to 2 decimal places. And here you can see that the account that I'm sending this from has 29.09 Embiggen in it. The next tag that we have is a token selector tag. So here we have a simple drop down, or drop up in this case, that lists out a whole bunch of tokens that we've identified. This will, as we select a token here, the value of this widget, if you accessed it through other JavaScript tools, is going to be an object that gives you the symbol, the token address, and the number of decimals that this token expects. So using this, the user can select a token, and then your dApp can interact with that selection in order to accurately convey the information about that token. The next thing we have is the standard relayer API fees widget. So this is, and here we've changed from the OR Web3 tag to the OR SRA tag. So SRA is for standard relayer API. In this case, the OR SRA tag is actually, at a JavaScript class level, a subclass of the OR Web3 tag. So it does all of the things that the OR Web3 tag does. You can still have your no Web3 section in here that will show up for users that don't have Web3. You can also point it to a particular instance of the standard relayer API, and all of the OR SRA related tags will point specifically to that instance of the standard relayer API. So in theory, you could point that at Radar Relay or ERCDEX, or your own instance of hosted instance of OpenRelay, and it would all work just fine. You don't actually, if you want to point to OpenRelay, you don't actually have to provide this attribute at all, because the OR SRA tag will point to OpenRelay by default. Then the OR SRA fee tag is going to look up the fee from the standard relayer that was pointed to above. And here we see that and this widget's not showing up quite the way I'd like it to, because the text is bigger than I'm used to. But if you look, the standard relayer API instance told us that the necessary fee is 0.2 ZRX, and then using the slider, the user can decide, is the maker going to pay that? Are they going to split it, 50-50, or is the taker going to pay that? Or anywhere on the spectrum in between. The next thing that we have is actually a combination of several of the previous widgets, and it's the maker widget. And obviously this needs to be touched up. It's not a very pretty thing yet, but here you can select a token from the token selector widget. You can specify a number, and this is not a special widget. So this is if we wanted to trade, let's say Embiggen. We wanted to offer one Embiggen, and we'll say the maker is going to pay 100% of the fee. We want to request ZRX in exchange, and say we want. So we'll say we're going to offer 10 Embiggen, and we want 2 ZRX for every Embiggen that we offer. We need to pick an expiration date. We'll say it's going to expire next Thursday at 8:30. Oh, shoot. Not sure I can actually set that. There we go. It's going to expire at 8:30 a.m. I was going to do PM, but reveal.js took over and took me to the previous slide. So anyway, we've set our expiration date. It gives us a summary of our order that we are offering 10 Embiggen for ZRX at an asking price of 2 ZRX per Embiggen. And our order is set to expire on August 9th, 2018 at 8:30 and 8 seconds in the morning. So that's as far as I've gotten with this widget so far. The next step would be to give the user a button where they can sign the order and then upload it to OpenRelay. I will probably be there early next week, and then we can start trying to make it pretty. There's also an internationalization feature. So the only widget I've implemented internationalization on is the maker widget, and the only language I've implemented so far is Pig Latin. It will actually pull the language off of the HTML tag, which is kind of the normal place for a website to indicate what language it's in. And then hopefully eventually all of our widgets will adjust so that their standard language corresponds to the language indicated by the HTML tag. For the purpose of this demonstration, I made it so that you can also set the language on this individual tag, which then translated all of the standard language that was provided there from English into Pig Latin. My intent for internationalization is that we will start out by doing a Google Translate of our standard language into a bunch of different languages, and then people who speak those languages better than Google Translate can come in and provide us better translations, so that they are customized and written in a way that actually makes sense to the people of that language, rather than the sometimes nonsensical translations that Google Translate comes up with. But I do intend to at least pick a handful of languages and try to have translations into those languages, on our initial launch. So if you're interested in contributing to our widgets, you can check it out at github.com/OpenRelayXYZ/widgets. Ways that you can contribute are to help us develop widgets. We have a number of new widgets that we want to have created. You could help us clean up and style existing widgets. So my own CSS capabilities are very close to nil. I would love to have somebody come through and apply some nice looking styles to the widgets that I've already built. You could translate widgets into other languages if you know them. There's a reason that I used Pig Latin for translations, and that's my list of languages that I know in terms of spoken languages is not very vast. you could help us write documentation. So Sam alluded to this earlier, that a lot of our projects are not documented as well as they could be. If you're not a coder and you don't necessarily understand how these things work, come bug me on Gitter, ask me questions, and then put together documentation. That would be fantastic. I'd also like to have these widgets integrated with Circle CI. So I've got them all set up and running unit tests through Karma with Mocha. If somebody wanted to take the initiative to have that automatically run on Circle CI every time we have a commit, that would be fantastic. So next week on Screenside Chats, I plan to go into detail on how some of these widgets are actually implemented. I probably won't go into detail on all of them, but I will pick a couple of examples and go through them and how they are implemented in the general structure of these widgets. As I noted, they are built in LitElement. LitElement is kind of a modern replacement for Polymer, taking advantage of some new browser features that didn't really exist when Polymer was originally created. The documentation for LitElement itself is not very vast. So I have learned a lot about LitElement just by reading through its own source code. So I'm hoping that by providing some good examples of how to use LitElement, people will be able to engage with it fairly quickly and not run into too many problems. So does anybody have any questions about the LitElement widgets that I've created, the framework, any of the specific widgets? No questions?
No questions.
Hey, Austin, can you tell me how LitElement is pronounced in Pig Latin?
I guess it would be either itlay element lay, or itlay element yay, or itlay no, it element lay, depending on whether you consider it to be one word or two.
Awesome, thank you. That's all I had.
Anything else? All right, thank you all for joining.